Hi, I'm Ben Felder, News Director of the Piedmont Citizen, and joining me is the Citizen Sports Editor, Ben Sheff, and we're here at the Citizen offices in Piedmont, Oklahoma, and we're here to talk about Piedmont football and a big win for Piedmont last Friday, a 45-19 victory over Clinton, the defending state champs. And there's been some debate about how big of a game this, or how big of a win this really is. Clinton had some injured starters that likely impacted the game, but regardless of what kind of squad Clinton brought to Piedmont on Friday, the win for the Wildcats really helps them in the hunt for the playoffs.
Yeah, like you said, it was a big win in the playoff standings, regardless of whatever you want to make of the injuries that Clinton had. They had some running backs injured, didn't play in the game, that I think it's kind of undeniable they probably would have made an impact.
Yeah.
Whether it would have been a big enough impact to change the outcome and Clinton wins, you never know. But like you said, regardless of who played, who didn't play, Piedmont got a big win. I think probably the biggest thing for the players for Piedmont was a huge confidence boost.
Yeah.
I talked to some of the players after the game, and then a couple of the players yesterday on Monday, and the head coach, Craig Church, as well. And the sense you get from them is just a huge momentum booster, or confidence booster. Also obviously a big win in terms of their momentum. They won 3 games in a row now. But the kids really have a lot of belief that they're going into this big game against Anadarko this week, that they got a shot to knock them off too.
Yeah, and Piedmont season is down to 3 weeks, as it is for everybody else across the state and across districts, and we're going to talk a little bit about the playoff picture and what last Friday's game means. But before we do so, let's talk about this Friday's matchup against Anadarko, undefeated, top of the districts. Clinton was a tough team. Anadarko will probably be even tougher.
Yeah, I mean, Anadarko is arguably the best team in the state.
Mm-hmm.
One of 2 4A teams left right now that are undefeated, standing at 7-0, like you said, 4-0 in district play. I mean, just all around an incredibly good football team. Offense is one of the highest scoring. I was looking at the scoring totals from Class A to 6A. Anadarko was the highest scoring team of any high school in Oklahoma from Class A to 6A. And then their defense, they've only given up 64 points in all 7 games combined. That kind of speaks for itself. Obviously, a really good defensive team, really good offensively. They got a number of playmakers on the offensive side of the football. Same thing on the defensive side of the football. Talking with Church yesterday, obviously one of the big things that Piedmont has been able to do in the past 3 games they've won is limit their turnovers. That was kind of a factor. If you go back and look at last year's game with Anadarko, Piedmont had an interception early in the game that Anadarko returned the length of the field. That put them up 6-0, kind of got them going. Piedmont was able to force a couple fumbles and recover those fumbles in the game last year against Anadarko. They got a field goal off of those. So it was kind of close early in the game. Then Anadarko kind of ran away with it as things progressed. But like I said earlier, I think kind of the big key for Piedmont, or the biggest difference for Piedmont going into the Anadarko game this year versus going in last year, was that last year they got thumped pretty good by Clinton, 49-7, and obviously you have the big one this year that I don't think you can state enough how much of a confidence booster that was for the kids.
Yeah, and with the same schedule as last year, swapping homes and away on your schedule, Piedmont's got kind of a tough schedule. I mean, they opened the gate with Deer Creek. It's not a district game, but Deer Creek, a big rival, but also a very talented team. They're a tough team to beat, and Piedmont hasn't been able to do it recently. And it seems like when you look at recent years, Piedmont kind of comes out of the gate, maybe a big loss to Deer Creek. It takes a couple games and they kind of build some momentum. And then this Clinton and Anadarko back-to-back stretch, it's brutal. It's brutal. And you don't want to, as coaches, you don't want to tell the players that, hey, it's okay if you lose, because what we do the next 2 weeks after that to end the season can still get us in the playoff. That's all true, but you want the players to be confident. It's huge that they beat Clinton, because they did. I mean, and the coaches have been preaching probably all week that you can do this, you can win. In the past, they haven't been able to, and this week they did. So they are going into Anadarko probably a pretty confident bunch.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I asked. I talked with Church on Monday, and kind of reference what you did in terms of the back-to-back games against Clinton and Anadarko. You knew from the beginning of the season, because of last year's schedule, that mid of October you're going to play 2 of the top teams in the state. And at the time, I mean, it looks like those are going to be 2 really tough games, and they are 2 really tough games, obviously. But now, the thing that I kind of talked about with Church was the confidence that the kids have now. It's you really couldn't play Anadarko. If there ever is a good time to play Anadarko, this is kind of the best time to play them, coming off that huge win against Clinton.
Yeah.
So like you said, I mean, it's obviously it's a really tough situation for any team to play the two teams that played in the 4A state title game last year back-to-back weeks. But Piedmont feels like if there is a good time, maybe this is now.
Yeah, and you've written in weeks past about how the offense is kind of starting to find a rhythm. Specifically, you read about the running back. This week, a plug for the paper on Thursday, you have an article on the defense, and they've kind of really come up big in the last few weeks. So, both sides of the ball for Anadarko are pretty tough, but Piedmont seems to be kind of building some confidence and building a rhythm that it'll be interesting to see how they match up against Anadarko. Well, there are 3 weeks left to play in the regular season, and Piedmont is, in the last couple of years, at this time of the year, they've been kind of on the outside looking in with a chance to maybe sneak into the playoffs. 2 years ago they did. Last year they weren't able to. Clinton's win, it doesn't matter what kind of Clinton team they were. The win in the district standings was huge for Piedmont. And you and I were looking at the district standings this morning, and we'll flash those up here on the screen for you. But the win takes Piedmont to 3-1 in districts. Clinton is at 2-2. Piedmont is in third place. The top 4 teams go. Obviously, they're playing Anadarko, who is tops in district. Piedmont ends the season with Anadarko, and then Elgin and Weatherford.
Both on the road.
Those are both on the road. Yeah. Not saying that the Anadarko game isn't winnable, but we all talked about how tough it is. Even if you drop that game on Friday, Piedmont still is set up in a position to go to the playoffs with wins in their final 2 games. You and I were talking about that the magic number of wins for Piedmont right now to try to get to is that 5 win.
Yeah.
If they win 5 games, looking at the district standings, it's going to be pretty hard for Clinton or Weatherford, who are the 2 teams below them, to overtake them. Even 4 wins, if they go only win 1 of their next 3, it makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, 4 wins, it kind of gets kind of dicey depending who the wins are against, who the losses are against. And also, I know you and I mentioned, I don't know if it's this week or the following week, but it is this week. Elgin and Weatherford, 2 teams I think right now are 2-2 in district, play each other. So that could potentially be kind of an elimination game, so to speak, for playoff chances, in terms of obviously the team that wins that Weatherford-Elgin game is going to have a step up on the team that loses in the district standings.
Yeah, and Clinton plays Weatherford the last week of the season.
Woodward,
excuse me. And at least for Clinton, that seems like that's probably going to be a must-win for them. And it's just kind of an interesting position because that's where Piedmont has been the last couple of years. They've had to win that last game in order to get into the playoffs. Like we said, 2 years ago, which was Church's first year, they got in. Last year they lost that last game and were just outside looking in. So the win over Clinton puts them in third place. I don't want to say that's comfortable position, but it gives them a little bit more breathing room. They can go to Anadarko. They can leave it all on the field. If they win, I mean, this is a playoff team, right? I mean, we're talking, all of a sudden that changes the conversation on Piedmont. But I mean, this looks like a playoff team. Is that your opinion?
I would agree with that. Right? I mean, you look at the biggest thing over the past 3 weeks. I mean, some of the scores have been lopsided. But I think if you're at the games and you're watching the games and you're watching how the offense is playing, even the special teams. I was talking with Jason Esau, Piedmont's defensive coordinator, on Monday, and kind of talking about the improvements, like you had mentioned the story that'll be in this week's paper about Piedmont's improved defensive play.
Yeah.
But he said the best defense were those 2 fumble recoveries that Piedmont had early in the third quarter on the fumbles that Clinton couldn't handle on the kickoffs. Clinton loses those 2 fumbles, and then Piedmont gets the ball, and they're playing offense. And obviously, your best defense is when your offense is on the field and you can't give up any points that way. But, I mean, over the past 3 weeks, you've really seen a lot of improvement offensively, defensively, and special teams. And I think that's one of the things that Church has been most pleased with, looking at the team as a whole, is that all 3 phases of the game Piedmont has really been improving on.
Yeah. And Clinton, once again, going back to the game, Clinton's not, they are a playoff team year in and year out. Last year's state champs. This is the kind of game, this is the kind of team that they're going to have to beat, in the playoffs. And once again, there's been some excuses offered from Clinton that, they didn't necessarily have their best squad going forward. But, Piedmont is, Piedmont is in control of its own destiny. I guess we could put it that way.
Sure.
And if things shake out the way that I think they can for Piedmont, this isn't a team that just squeaked into the district, into the top 4 in district. This is a team that could very well be sitting at 3rd place. I mean, maybe more. I mean, this Friday's game against Anadarko, a win would definitely change the conversation dramatically, and will probably be the best 2 weeks of Piedmont football, ever. Well, it'll be the best month.
Yeah.
I mean, they're coming in with.
I mean, I haven't been here long, but I can't imagine in the history of Piedmont football if they're able to knock off Anadarko a better stretch. And I mean, you beat the 2 teams that played in the state title game last year in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah,
how many schools would be able to say they've done that?
Yeah. So this definitely will be a big game for them. And one thing that's interesting to me, I was looking at the record since Church has been here, and obviously a new head coach, but also a new philosophy and system that's being run. The win over Clinton brings Piedmont to 14-14 under Church, and that may not sound like that. It's an average record. It's the definition of average. It's 500, but I don't know. I took that to kind of mean that this team has kind of built a foundation. They've built an identity. We kind of know what kind of team they are, what they try to do, and maybe this is the point where they take it to the next level, where they say we've kind of built that foundation, we put ourselves in a position to be a playoff team. Now we want to become that team that can actually win some games in the playoffs. Well, you'll be at the game, the last home game at senior night this Friday as they take on Anadarko, and then the last 2 games of the season are on the road, correct?
Yep.
Elgin and Weatherford.
Yep.
Well, as we start getting closer to the playoffs, we'll start doing more video breakdowns and conversations like this, taking a closer look at Piedmont. Once again, Piedmont beats Clinton last week 45-19, a big win that puts them in 3rd place in the district standings, and they will try to continue this hot streak on Friday against Anadarko. Well, for Ben Schupp, I'm Ben Felder here at the Piedmont Citizen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.